Respect is not a fixed asset. It is not a title you are given, a position you hold, or a past achievement you've locked away. It is not a noun. It is a verb. It is an active, continuous current that flows between people, fed by 100 tiny streams of perception, action, and consistency. And like any current, it can weaken. It can slow to a trickle. It can, in time, run dry. You do not wake up one morning to find that respect is gone. You wake up many mornings, failing to notice the small leaks in the dam, a promise made lightly and forgotten, an opinion expressed not with conviction, but with a need for approval, a boundary stated, then quietly moved for convenience, a reaction hot and emotional where a calm response was needed, a pattern of words that no longer matches the pattern of your actions. People rarely tell you they are losing respect for you. They simply begin to listen less. Their eyes glaze over a little when you speak. Your suggestions carry less weight. Your presence generates less quiet attention. You find yourself having to explain, to justify, to remind people of who you are and what you've done. This is the silent tax of eroded respect. You are working harder to be heard while being heard less. But this is not a life sentence. The beautiful and daunting fact about respect is that it is renewable. It can be rebuilt, not by loud declarations or dramatic gestures, but by a quiet, deliberate, and consistent recalibration of the very signals you have been broadcasting. This process begins not with changing how others see you, but with understanding the three silent fractures through which respect most commonly drains away. These are not grand failures of character. They are subtle, daily habits of self-betrayal. The first and most profound is the congruence gap. This is the space between what you say and what you do, between the person you project and the person you practice being when you are alone. It is the promise to finish a project by Friday, followed by a Thursday evening of distraction. It is the stated value of health, followed by a series of neglected choices. It is the claim of a principle abandoned at the first sign of personal cost. The human brain is a magnificent pattern detection machine. It is constantly, subconsciously, calculating the ratio between your declared identity and your demonstrated behavior. When this ratio is consistent, when your actions reliably reflect your words, you are perceived as integrated. You are whole. This wholeness communicates stability, predictability, and trustworthiness. It allows others to relax around you because they know what to expect. They know the map you've given them matches the territory. But when a congruence gap appears, it creates a subtle cognitive dissonance in the people around you. Their subconscious mind notes the discrepancy. He says he is a professional, but his work is consistently late. She says family is everything, but she is always unavailable. This dissonance is resolved not in your favor, but by a quiet downgrade of your credibility. Your words begin to sound like noise. Your promises begin to feel like air. People don't think, "What a liar." They simply instinctively begin to discount you. They stop relying on you. The current of respect weakens. Rebuilding begins by conducting a ruthless private audit of your own congruence. Where are the gaps? Not the large, obvious lies, but the small, daily ones. The times you said you'd call and didn't. The standard you set for others that you don't meet yourself. The goal you announced with passion, then abandoned without mention. The repair is not public, it is private, and then demonstrated. You do not announce, "I am now a congruent person." You simply, quietly begin to align the smallest parts of your behavior with your stated values. You keep the tiny promise you made to yourself. You deliver the small thing you said you would on time without fanfare. You make your private actions a mirror of your public claims. You become, in a word, reliable, not to them first, to yourself. This is the first stone in the new foundation. It is the act of becoming someone you yourself can respect, because you cannot petition others for a feeling you do not grant yourself. The respect you seek from the world must first be a verdict you reach in the quiet court of your own conscience. When you start here, a shift occurs. The need to be seen as respectable is replaced by the evidence of being reliable. The energy you once spent managing perceptions is freed up for the integrity of your actions. You stop performing a character and start inhabiting a person. And that person, grounded in self-trust, is ready to address the second, more subtle fracture, the currency of attention. The second fracture through which respect quietly drains is not about what you do, but about where you place your most valuable asset, your attention. We live in an economy of distraction, but we trade in an ancient currency of focus. When you give someone your full, undivided attention, you are offering them a profound form of respect. You are implicitly saying, what you are saying, who you are in this moment, matters enough to pull me completely from my own world into yours. Conversely, when you withhold that attention, when your eyes flick to a screen, when you formulate your reply while they are still speaking, when your presence is physically there but mentally miles away, you are conducting a silent devaluation. You are broadcasting that their words, their time, their very presence are worth less than your internal noise. This creates a powerful negative compound effect. The person on the receiving end may not consciously think, you are disrespecting me, but they feel it. They feel the slight. They feel the lack of weight in the interaction. And with each repetition, their subconscious ledger notes a deficit. Your credibility as someone who values others and therefore as someone worthy of high regard diminishes. But the damage goes deeper than your interactions with others. This fracture also concerns how you attend to your own world. Respect is eroded when you are chronically inattentive to the details of your own life, when you are late because you didn't plan, when you make errors because you didn't review, when you are perpetually surprised by consequences you could have foreseen. This scatters your personal power. It makes you seem like a minor character in your own story, buffeted by events, rather than the author who is reading the page ahead. People instinctively grant less authority to those who do not command their own attention. The repair for this fracture is a practice of deliberate allocation. It begins with a simple physical discipline. In conversation, you plant your feet, you still your hands, you turn your body fully toward the person speaking, and you listen with the goal of comprehension, not of crafting your response. Your only task is to understand the map of their thought. This is not passive. It is an active, generous act of focus. You will be astonished at how this simple shift changes the temperature of your relationships. People will feel heard by you, often for the first time. And a person who feels deeply heard will, in turn, listen to you with a different quality of attention. You must apply this same principle of allocation to your own domain. This means building small rituals of review. 5 minutes at the day's start to see what is coming. 5 minutes at the day's end to note what was done. and what was learned. You are training your attention to be a lighthouse beam, not a diffuse glow, able to focus with intensity on what matters, whether it is a person or a problem. This disciplined attention becomes a form of silent authority. It communicates that you are not scattered, that you are present, that you are a careful observer of both people and processes. You become someone whose notice means something because it is not given lightly. Your focus becomes a respected commodity. However, even with congruence and focused attention, respect can be undone by a single, corrosive emotional habit. This is the third fracture, and it is often the most destructive because it operates like a slow acid, eating away at your perceived strength from the inside out. It is the fracture of emotional liability. Emotional liability is not about having emotions. To be human is to feel deeply, and that is a strength. Emotional liability is about being governed by those emotions in the moment. It is when your reactions are dictated by the transient weather of your feelings rather than the stable climate of your character. Picture a leader who panics at the first sign of bad news, spreading anxiety through their team. Imagine a partner who, feeling hurt, launches immediate criticism rather than seeking understanding. Think of the colleague whose frustration erupts as sharp sarcasm in a meeting. In each case, the person has surrendered their agency to a passing emotional state. They have, in that moment, become a conduit for chaos rather than a source of stability. To those observing, this is not seen as passion or authenticity. It is registered as a lack of internal governance. It signals that you do not have command over your own inner world. And if you cannot command yourself, why would anyone trust you to command a situation, a project, or a difficult conversation? Respect hinges on the perception of reliability, and an unpredictable emotional core is profoundly unreliable. People will start to walk on eggshells, withhold information, or avoid engaging with you on anything of substance because the cost of triggering an uncontrolled reaction feels too high. Your influence shrinks to the size of your most recent mood. The repair for this is not suppression. It is not about becoming cold or robotic. That is merely another form of inauthenticity, another congruence gap. The repair is the development of what we might call emotional sovereignty. Emotional sovereignty is the space between the stimulus and your response. It is that critical, often missing moment of choice. It is the practiced ability to feel the surge of anger, the clutch of fear, the pinch of insecurity, to acknowledge it fully within yourself, and then to decide how, or even if, that emotion will be expressed in your words and actions. This is built through a deceptively simple but transformative practice: the pause. The next time you feel a strong reactive emotion rise, a flash of irritation in a traffic jam, a spike of defensiveness during feedback, a wave of anxiety from a challenging email, your first and only task is to institute a pause. You do not have to meditate for an hour. You simply must create a buffer between the feeling and your next action. You might literally say, "Let me think about that for a moment." You might take a slow, deep breath into your abdomen, focusing solely on the sensation of the air moving in and out. You might excuse yourself to get a glass of water. The mechanism doesn't matter. The function is everything. To break the automatic circuit between trigger and reaction. In that pause, you ask one quiet question: what does the best version of me want to do here? Not the hurt version, not the angry version, not the scared version. the best version, the version grounded in your long-term values, not your short-term feelings. This practice is a recalibration of power. It moves the seat of your authority from your reactive limbic system to your conscious prefrontal cortex. It is the difference between being a country ruled by passing storms and one governed by a stable constitution. As you practice this, something shifts in your presence. You begin to carry a palpable sense of calm. People will notice that difficult situations do not unravel you. That pressure does not make you volatile. They will sense that you have a deep internal ballast. This becomes incredibly attractive and reassuring. They will start to bring you problems, confide in you, and look to you in moments of uncertainty because your emotional sovereignty makes you a safe and steady harbor. Respect flows naturally toward such a harbor. Now, you have identified and begun to repair the 3 silent fractures, the congruence gap, through aligning action with word, the currency of attention through deliberate focus, and emotional liability through sovereign pause. But repair is only the restoration of a neutral state. To truly rebuild respect, you must move beyond neutral. You must move into the active, generative dimension of respect building. This is not about claiming authority, but about cultivating a gravity that naturally pulls it toward you. This brings us to the quiet art of becoming a source of resolution. Let's talk about gravity, not the physical force, but the social and psychological kind. In any room, in any team, in any relationship, there are objects and there are centers of gravity. The objects are moved by the forces around them, by drama, by urgency, by external pressure. They react. The center of gravity is different. It is the thing that organizes the field around it. It is the point of stability that other things orient toward. It is quiet, often still, and possesses an undeniable pull. To rebuild respect is to stop being an object tossed about by your own inconsistencies, distractions, and emotions. It is to learn how to become a center of quiet gravity. And this is achieved not by demanding to be the center of attention, but by becoming a source of resolution. What does this mean? Practically, look at the environments you inhabit. They are filled with static, unresolved decisions, ambiguous problems, simmering tensions, circular conversations. This static is psychic weight that drains energy and fragments focus. Most people add to this static. They bring more problems, more complaints, more what-ifs, and buts. They amplify the noise. A source of resolution does the opposite. They have a talent for moving things, even small things, from a state of ambiguity to a state of clarity, from a state of problem to a state of path. This does not mean you must have all the answers. That is a trap. The goal is not to be the smartest person in the room. The goal is to be the person who reliably moves the room, however slightly, toward clarity and action. Here is how it works in the quietest, most powerful form. You are in a meeting. The discussion is going in circles about a project deadline. Anxiety is rising. Voices are repeating themselves. Instead of adding another layer of worry, if we don't figure this out, the client will be furious, or jumping to a premature solution. Just push it to next month. You perform a simple gravitational act. You pause, you listen, and then you offer a frame. You say, it seems we have 2 competing priorities, the original deadline and the quality of the deliverable. Is that the core tension? Or you say, let's map what's actually left to do. maybe it's less than it feels like. You are not solving it. You are defining it. You are offering a clear lens through which to view the chaos. You are turning a vague storm cloud into a map with borders. This act alone, the act of clean definition, drains anxiety and creates a platform for action. People feel the mental relief. They are no longer wrestling a ghost. They are looking at a shape they can address. This principle applies everywhere. In a personal conflict, you move from "you always" to "what I need is." In a personal goal, you move from "I want to be better" to "the first step is this one small action every morning." By consistently being the person who moves conversations from blurry to focused, from emotional to operational, from problem-oriented to path-oriented, you perform an invaluable service. You reduce the cognitive and emotional load on everyone around you. You become a human clarifier. And here is the profound truth about respect. We respect, almost reflexively, those who reduce our burden, not by doing our work for us, but by clearing the fog so we can see our own way forward. They make the world feel more manageable, more intelligible. This is a form of leadership that requires no title, only perception and a commitment to forward motion. To cultivate this, start small. In your own life, identify one loop of static, a recurring worry, a nagging domestic task, an unresolved minor decision. Apply the principle of resolution. Define it cleanly. What is the very next smallest physical action that would move it? Do that action. Do not wait for the perfect solution. Move it an inch. Then bring this practice into your interactions. When someone brings you a problem, resist the urge to immediately sympathize with the emotion or launch into a comparable story of your own. First, help them define the edges of it. Ask, what would a good outcome look like? Or, what's the smallest piece of this we could get done today? You are teaching them by example how to generate their own resolution. You are not creating dependency. You are building capability. And nothing builds respect faster than helping someone feel more capable. This practice, woven together with the repaired foundations of congruence, focused attention, and emotional sovereignty, creates a new composite material for your character. You are now someone whose word is reliable, whose focus is generous, whose calm is deep, and whose presence tends to make problems shrink and paths appear. This is how you stop asking for respect and start commanding it through the undeniable quality of your participation in the world. You are no longer a subject to the chaos of life. You are a gentle, persistent force that organizes it. But a force, to be sustained, requires a daily source of energy. It requires a system, a protocol for the long haul. The final piece is not another action, but the architecture that makes all of this sustainable. We have built a blueprint, a map for moving from someone who has watched respect, a road to someone who generates a quiet, gravitational pull. But a blueprint is not a building. A map is not a journey. The final non-negotiable work is the daily masonry, the laying of one brick, then another, in the exact same place according to the plan, even especially on the days you do not feel like a builder. This is where all transformations are won or lost. Not in the brilliant insight, but in the mundane repetition. Not in the grand declaration, but in the silent private return to the practice. Therefore, we must design a system that bypasses your feelings. A system that operates on the logic of a circuit, not the weather of your motivation. We will call this your integrity protocol. It is not a to-do list. It is a daily, non-negotiable ritual for auditing and reinforcing the very foundations we have laid. The protocol consists of 3 questions, asked and answered in writing every single evening. They require less than 5 minutes. Their power is not in the time they take, but in the relentless daily orientation they provide. They are your navigational fixes, ensuring you are not drifting back into the old fractures. Question 1. The congruence checkpoint. Where today did my actions fully align with my word, however small? Where did they drift even slightly? Do not judge the drift. Simply note it. The act of writing said I would finish the email by noon, finished at 12:15, creates an undeniable witness. It seals the experience in the reality of your own conscience. Over time, this simple audit makes the congruence gap feel intolerable. You begin to pre-correct. You start to under-promise so you can over-deliver. The alignment becomes habitual because you are holding yourself to account not with guilt, but with data. Question 2. The attention ledger. To whom or to what did I give my fullest, undistracted focus today? From whom or from what did I withhold it? This forces you to see your attention as the finite, valuable currency it is. You might write, gave full focus to my daughter for 10 minutes after school, or withheld focus during the team call, was checking messages. Again, no judgment, just accounting. This daily ledger reshapes your behavior not through force, but through awareness. You begin to choose your investments of focus because you have to record them. Your attention becomes intentional, not accidental. Question 3. The sovereignty log. When did I feel a strong reactive emotion today? Did I create a pause? What did the best version of me do? This is the master practice. It transforms emotional liability into a field of study. By logging the trigger, felt disrespected when my idea was dismissed, and your response, paused, took a breath, asked a clarifying question. You are doing the neurological work of strengthening the pause pathway. You are compiling evidence of your own growth. On days where you reacted poorly, you note it without drama. You are a scientist observing an experiment. Reaction snapped back. Note, need a longer pause next time. This drains the shame and turns failure into functional data. This nightly protocol is your private command center. It is how you move from understanding the principles to engineering them into your character. It makes the abstract concrete. It turns philosophy into physics. But there is a final crucial understanding required for the long-term rebuild, the law of invisible momentum. When you begin this work, you will expect the world to notice. You will anticipate a change in how people treat you, a quick return of respect. This expectation is the seed of disillusionment, because respect, once lost, returns at a different, slower rhythm than it departed. Its return is not marked by fanfare, but by the absence of something, the absence of interruption, the absence of doubt in someone's eyes, the absence of the need to prove yourself. You must find your fuel not in their changing behavior, but in the quiet satisfaction of the work itself, the satisfaction of a kept promise to yourself, the clean feeling after a moment of chosen calm, the clarity of a defined problem. This intrinsic reward, the self-respect earned in private, is the only sustainable engine. It makes you impervious to the timing of external validation. You are not rebuilding for them. You are rebuilding for the person you meet in the mirror each morning during your congruence checkpoint. You are rebuilding for the version of you who deserves to live in a psyche governed by integrity, focus, and sovereignty. The profound magnetic respect you will eventually receive from the world is simply the echo, the external shadow of the respect you have firmly established within. So you continue day after day. You ask the three questions. You lay the brick. You ignore the lack of applause. You track the invisible momentum. And one day, you will walk into a room and feel a different quality of silence. It will not be the silence of being overlooked. It will be the silence of being seen fully by people who have subconsciously registered the solidity of your foundation, the generosity of your focus, the depth of your calm, and the clarity of your mind. They will not know why they trust you. They will simply feel that they do. The bridge of respect will be rebuilt beneath your feet, one quiet, deliberate step at a time. And you will have crossed it long before anyone thought to announce it was complete.